Ghana just celebrated 58 years of independence, indeed the oldest post-colonial independent country. But there is not much to celebrate. We'll tell you why Ghanaians are a dissatisfied lot. Hello and thank you for joining us on Global Business as we catch you up with the latest developments on the business front from within the continent. I am Penina Karibe, live in the Kenyan capital, Nairobi. It's 9 p.m. here in East Africa. Wherever you're joining us from, welcome to the show. Also coming up, Egypt strikes a second large gas find in as many weeks, and Brega port in Libya opens for business. Let's begin in Ghana. An energy and cost of living crisis has threatened to overshadow independence celebrations there. The West African nation was once the darling of foreign investors, but it is now dealing with an array of economic challenges, including unsatisfied Ghanaians. Noel Makugu explains.
A lucrative gold mining industry and a growing oil sector should be contributing to public wealth in Ghana, which this year celebrates 58 years as Africa's first post-colonial independent country. But despite a relatively fast-growing economy and a status as a frontier economy, many Ghanaians aren't happy about the extent to which economic growth has improved their lives.
For the democracy, we have done very well, but in other areas, that is the standard of living. I look at the standard of living in the life of a basic man, the ordinary man, the ordinary Ghanaian woman or the ordinary Ghanaian man. I see a lot going on. What we claim is happening in Ghana is not reflecting in the life of the ordinary Ghanaian citizen.
Speaking during Independence Day celebrations, Ghanaian President John Dramani Mahama talked of the sacrifices made by earlier generations in the struggle for independence.
The 50th anniversary that we mark today as a free and independent country has only been made possible and relevant because for centuries, others before us were willing to do whatever it took to free us from colonial bondage. That journey towards self-rule is characterized by epoch-making events from which we should draw inspiration for our own march towards socio-economic transformation.
Samia Nkrumah, daughter of the country's founding father, Kwame Nkrumah, also commended the virtues of the country's early leadership.
When Ghana had clear, strong, visionary leadership, we were able to help many countries in their liberation struggles. Ghana also led the way by laying the foundation for the reconstruction of our economy. Ghana also led the way in realizing or in creating the Organization of African Union, which really would have laid down the framework for how we can implement integration.
While the anniversary of independence has been a cause for celebration, Ghana's government faces an uphill battle against volatile global oil prices and other economic challenges. It needs to ensure that economic growth translates into improved livelihoods for all. Voldi Carosa, CCTV.
Voldi Carosa with that report. Now let's head to Libya. And an oil port has opened its doors to shipments of all kinds. Brega port is now receiving a variety of cargo shipments from wheat and construction materials to food and medicine, as continued fighting in Libya forces the closure of many ports and causes a shortage of vital supplies.
Welcome to Brega port. Scenes of cargo shipment passing through this harbour have now become a regular feature. On this day, a massive shipment of wheat is being offloaded into waiting trucks. A few months ago, Brega was only equipped to receive oil. Fighting between rival factions allied with two separate governments has forced many of the country's major ports to close due to damage and poor security, such as Benghazi, 250 kilometers away. Shortages in both medical supplies and food has hit the region hard. A recent refurbishment of Brega port set it up to receive goods other than oil, and it is hoped that it will alleviate the shortages.
At the present time and in the current circumstances, which led to the closure of Benghazi port, Brega port can receive all shipments arriving in Libyan ports.
Bukhamad says Braga Port operates under the jurisdiction of the internationally recognized government based in Tobruk and in accordance with the regulations followed in Libya and conducted in other Libyan ports.
We operate in accordance to the regulations followed in Libya and conducted in other Libyan ports. We follow rules such as customs release of flammable substances, and cattle are not authorized unless approved by a health inspection or an inspection by agricultural inspectors.
Libya's Tobruk government has been confined to the Far East since the Islamist allied militias seized Tripoli last year and revived an earlier government. The conflict between the rival militias allied with the two has fueled the worst violence since Muammar Gaddafi was toppled and killed in 2011. Noel Makugu, CCTV.
British oil company BP has made a second large gas discovery off Egypt as part of a concession estimated to contain more than 5 trillion cubic feet. BP Egypt's Satal 1 is a deep water exploration well located some 80 kilometers north of Egypt's Damietta and is the country's deepest well ever drilled. The company drilled the well at 6.4 kilometers depth and expects to go another kilometer deeper. The British oil company will invest around $12 billion with its partners as part of a finalized West Nile Delta concession deal to develop gas resources and some 55 million barrels of condensate. The supply deal will help Egypt as it tackles its worst energy crisis in decades. Rising energy consumption and decreasing production have turned it from a net energy exporter to a net importer in the last few years. Well, let's get more now from CCTV's Yasser Hakim is live for us in Cairo. So Yasser, a second large gas discovery by BP in as many weeks. Are there estimates of how much this will save the country in terms of energy costs, and how far does it address the persistent energy shortages in the country?
Yes, first of all, it's another vote of confidence, not just in the economy, but also in the reserves, the potential that Egypt has in this area that has been untapped for years, desert area in the east and the west of Egypt, where there's vast reserves and now is being explored. If you take, for example, the first batch that was explored like a couple of weeks ago, or a week ago, that covers like 25% of Egypt's gas needs. The current one we're talking about today, it covers nearly another 10 or 15%. That's alone, it's covering 45%. A big portion of Egypt's needs of gas. Something like you said is a big crisis in Egypt. There's power outages every day. The businesses and huge factories, heavy industries not able to work promptly because of the energy costs. So yes, this will go a long way, at least covering 45% of Egypt's needs. That's a big portion of what the government needs, and also it will help alleviate this importing from outside. This could help in increasing the production, local production, and thus you do not need to import in a country that has a budget deficit.
And yes, sir, are we likely to see the return of subsidies now that the government has been phasing them out, owing to their weight on the country's budget?
No, I don't think the government will go back on its plans to reduce subsidies gradually over 5 years. And this plan is still on track. The budget and the subsidies on energy controls around 30% of the total budget and total expenses of the government. And that's a big portion that the government needs to address for other issues such as health, education, infrastructure projects that are badly needed for employment and growth. So with the price of oil going down in the market, in the international market, which is good for Egypt because it imports a lot of oil, and now with the gas explorations, there will be money left over now that will be spent on other facts or other sides of the budget rather than going back to subsidies. No, the government will make use of this extra money and subsidies will continue to be reduced over the next 5 years until it's totally scrapped budget the subsidies on energy. So the plan is to continue as it is and no stopping the reduction in, or the lifting of subsidies on energy.
All right, Chester Hakim, live for us in Cairo. Many thanks. Let's look at the markets now. And a mixed bag really across the major bourses that we track here on Global Business. The JSE All Share Index dipped 1.37% on a day that saw the rand fall to a new 13-year low against the US dollar. Still ahead, mobile banking pushes Commercial Bank of Africa to top spot in terms of customer accounts in Kenya. And we talked to a Nigerian investment analyst about how to steer Nigeria's economy through the current turbulent economic waters.
Sustainable development and a commitment to developing partnerships with Africa. Some of the key phrases already used at the Africa Global Business Forum here in Dubai.
There is a need for a predictable environment in which investors have to put their money.
You're watching Global Business. Welcome back. Commercial Bank of Africa, Kenya's largest privately owned bank, is now the country's largest bank by customer numbers. This follows its adoption of the mobile phone as a channel for offering savings and loan products. CBA's Group Managing Director, Isaac Awonjo, said thanks to M-Shwari, the bank now has over 10 million customers. M-Shwari, Kenya's first truly mobile-centric banking service, was launched in partnership with Safaricom Limited on November 27, 2012. The partnership has seen M-Shwari deposits surge to around $1.7 billion since its launch. CBA has been processing an average of 50,000 loans per day over the last 2 years without demanding security or the need for clients to visit a bank branch to apply for the loan. Now, Jeremy Ngunza, CEO of the Commercial Bank of Africa, joins us in our studios here in Nairobi. Jeremy, it's good to have you with us. So, 10 million customers, that's a big deal. How easy has it been to interest consumers in mobile banking?
Thank you, Penina. It's great to be in studio. 10 million customers is a big deal. However, when you think about the foundation that M-Pesa laid when it was launched, it was a natural progression then to move customers to a banking service such as M-Shwari. 10 million customers, 70% of existing M-Pesa customers. I think the sky is the limit.
And Jeremy, with this kind of statistics, are we seeing the death of physical brick-and-mortar banks as we know them?
Hardly, Penina, because when you look at the numbers, there's still a place for brick and mortar. I think when we launched M-Shwari in partnership with Safaricom, it was really to address a need for those who are financially excluded. Each of the customers who come to M-Shwari or to the mainstream banks are looking for solutions from a financial services point of view. So there is a place for M-Shwari, there is a place for mainstream banking, and I think both, if you look at the numbers, both will continue to coexist and grow in volumes.
A lot of people, Jeremy, here in Kenya shy away from banks when it comes to credit services because of the high interest rates and the perception of being loan sharks. So how differently have you packaged yourselves to attract this kind of numbers?
If you look at the offering we have with M-Shwari, one of our taglines when we launched was bringing dignity into credit. We packaged the proposition in a way that we provided convenience to customers. We went into the microcredit realm where we're able to give customers who are hitherto not able to access credit from banks credit limits as low as 100 shillings. That is on the back of a technology platform and a partnership between ourselves and M-Pesa, which actually made this possible. So I think customers will come to banks as long as they're given convenience and an appropriate product or proposition.
I mean, no doubt, Jeremy, M-Shwari is a great model for saving or borrowing in a convenient, fast, reliable and affordable manner. But how do you as a bank cushion yourselves against risks, given that all is needed, or all that is needed really is, as collateral, is just a person's character?
I think we've actually built on that positive behavior of our customers. Again, this was a paradigm shift. Traditionally, credit by banks has been based on your salary or income coming through. And this was actually just taking factors other than your salary or income coming through and looking at how creating a credit algorithm that give us prediction of your ability to pay. And I think there's a lot of information out there on customers that can be used very positively. And I think we proved that with M-Shwari because our credit loss experience has not been any different. In fact, has been better than the mainstream and average net loss position for the industry.
Well, what's your default rate and how do you deal with defaulters?
Well, one thing we are very clear is there's no difference in terms of how we treat defaulters, both on M-Shwari and in the mainstream bank. We do submit names to the Credit Reference Bureau. We do give them reminders to pay up, and we also use it as an opportunity to educate our customers about the impact on their credit limits or the ability to borrow from banks should they default. There will always be a certain element of default, but certainly our experience has been quite encouraging.
You've processed an average of 50,000 loans per day, really amazing numbers there over the last 2 years, and that's without demanding security. Is your goal to create a society that's reliant on consumer credit? Absolutely not, Penina. If you look at the way we positioned M-Shwari, M-Shwari is actually positioned as a savings-led proposition. Our intention was to encourage customers, and I think the vote of confidence that we've been given by our customers is 10 million customers have actually opted to save with M-Shwari. We do then have those who borrow from us and who qualify for credit, but certainly overwhelmingly it has been more a savings-led proposition than a credit one. CBA is a regional bank, so when can your customers in other East African countries expect to benefit from this service? Oh, they are already benefiting from the service in conjunction again with Vodacom in Tanzania, who are a subsidiary of Vodafone. We launched the Empower proposition in Tanzania, and we are just shy of 2 million customers in Tanzania, which again proves the fact that there is actually space for this kind of proposition in the regional market, and certainly we are looking forward to provide the same proposition in the markets that we operate in. Oh, great talking to you, Jeremy. Jeremy Ngunza, CEO of the Commercial Bank of Africa, with us here in studio. Well, so let's stay with the telecommunications sector. And Safaricom's M-Pesa customers will now be able to send and receive money from Tanzania. Safaricom has partnered with Tanzanian mobile service operator Vodacom to enable seamless transactions between Kenya's nearly 20 million M-Pesa customers and Tanzania's 7 million M-Pesa customers. With presence in 10 countries, including Kenya, Tanzania, South Africa, Lesotho, DRC, Egypt, Mozambique, India, Romania and Fiji, M-Pesa has emerged as the most compelling mobile money proposition catering for both individual and corporate transactions. Unemployment, security and the urgent need to stimulate the economy for growth are the key challenges the next government in Nigeria would have to deal with after the coming elections. And it really doesn't matter whether the incumbent or opposition wins this election. An investment analyst at Honeywell Group, Ted Ngu, says that it could take up to 6 months after Nigeria's elections before investors come rushing back to the economy. Here's part of that conversation with DJ Badmas.
It's been a very difficult period for Nigeria. Economy-wise, things are not going too well, even though we're still in the first quarter of the year. But do you think things will improve soon?
Yes, I'm naturally I'm an optimist, and I can only see but a way up and a way out of this. Things will bottom out soon. I think we started the year with Naira sliding, oil prices going the wrong direction. It went down to 40. It's coming back up now at about 60. That naturally reduced the amount of money that the country was making. With that, it became a challenge for the government in terms of what it could spend. The cost of the dollar went up, and so the Naira bought fewer goods than it could buy before. So with that, there was some inflationary pressures in the economy. Government cannot spend. GDP is a function of expenditure, consumer expenditure is a function of government expenditure, and a few other things. If government cannot spend as it should or would like to, it would have a negative or adverse impact on GDP. If people cannot consume as much as they buy, or companies are buying things at more expensive rates and struggling to pass that on, it has an impact, a negative impact on their bottom line. So yes, those things have an adverse effect on the economy. But I expect that at some point in time, even with the Naira weakening, it would stabilize at some point. It will not continue a slide. We're not heading into a hyperinflationary situation. If you look at it a long time, a few years ago, the Naira was at 120. It collapsed very quickly to 184, but quickly stabilized at about 160. And we had that stability for a period of about 4 or 5 years. And people could do things. Okay, fine, it wasn't the 120, but it was around about 160, 165. And people, there was predictability. As long as the volatility is minimized, or there's very little volatility in the market, and people can predict and plan, then things will begin to pick up. And I would like to think that at some point in time, things would stabilize. People are expected to stabilize at about 200 Naira to a dollar. I think that is not unreasonable. If things get worse in the oil markets, it might go as worse as 245, I've heard from some quarters. But I think, based on what I'm saying, given that oil prices might come back up and are coming back up, we might find a 200 Naira to a dollar sort of level that things will stabilize at.
Now, in the event that oil prices don't pick up as we all expect, how bad will that be for Nigeria?
Oil accounts for about 10 or so % of GDP, but it accounts for a very significant, in fact, almost more than 80% of income. So if the oil prices continue to crash, it means the key source of revenue for government would decline, and government will not be able to meet its commitments in terms of key infrastructure projects, healthcare projects, educational projects, security. You look at Boko Haram, government had to borrow money to fight Boko Haram. How are they going to pay that money back? Servicing their debts, etc., etc. It's just going to make things are going to get pretty bad if the oil price falls and stays very low for a long time.
Let's take a look at commodity prices now. And Brent crude oil fell towards $59 a barrel on Monday as the dollar strengthened and a supply glut pushed global oil inventories to record highs. Oil inventories are rising across the world as production outstrips demand, offsetting tensions in the Middle East and the risk of output cuts in Libya and Iraq. Coming up, we meet a 23-year-old who is not just making an extra buck, but equipping her peers as well. Malaji, a 23-year-old entrepreneur, is causing waves in one of Johannesburg's most impoverished settlements by training young people on business skills. CCTV's Julie Shire with the story of an entrepreneur who found her sweet spot in equipping fellow youth with skills to lift them out of poverty.
It is in the center of Diepsloot, a crowded, poverty-stricken settlement north of Johannesburg, that we find Neftali Malachi, a young social entrepreneur that has made a huge difference to his community with his Southern Africa Youth Project.
Having grown up in a township like Diepsloot, facing difficulties, when you need to have decent debt and all the challenges that I've had, made me realize that I need to do something different. But for me, it was just to do something different for myself, and not knowing that this something different I'll be doing the changes and for the people in Diepsloot.
Today, Southern Africa Youth Project receives 60% of its funding from government, as its own board employs 22 people full-time and has trained more than 500 Diepsloot residents.
We are a youth development organization that changes the way the youth think about themselves. So what we do is we've got job centers which we run. Many young people come into our centers to apply for job opportunities. We've got the training programs that we usually host, which are in the form of your computer, cashier, life skills. We've got a system development and technical support, amongst other courses that we run on a daily basis.
This center is important in the sense that it links young people with many companies that that will give them an opportunity to find employment.
This project has been so cool because it's also has been inspiring, because working with Neftali is not just basically working, but we're more like a family. And if you look at our project, it's based in our community, so people don't have to actually spend money on transport or anything. So you just walk to our center, and that's when they can get help.
Help is always at hand, even if it means going door to door, engaging the youth.
In our community, there are too many people who are not working. So we want to destroy this. People, some of them, they can get job. So we tell them about job searching and then about computer training.
We're looking into long-term solutions, into helping the youth stand on their own and just probably create sustainability for themselves and their families.
Neftali's vision and dream has always been to enable the youth to help themselves.
The message that I would love to send to the people out there is that you need to stand up and do something, and always remember that being patient brings all the successes.
Neftali's youth development organization started as a dream of making a difference. Today, Neftali has 3 other projects in townships in South Africa and ensures that 3,000 youth find better jobs and conditions and skills for a better life. Julie Shire, CCTV, Diepsloot, Johannesburg.
A quick look at the currencies now. In South Africa's rand fell to a new 13-year low against the dollar on Monday after investors sold off emerging market currencies amid heightened expectations of an imminent interest rate hike in the United States. The rand stumbled 0.7% to 12.12 to the greenback, its softest level since early 2000. Now, on Global Business tomorrow, one of the world's largest building material manufacturers unveils a new cement plant in Togo. We'll also be looking at a new scheme in Morocco that's enabling migrants to build businesses in the country. And that's it for now on Global Business. To send your feedback to Global Business Africa at cctv.com. Visit us on Facebook. Our page is CCTV Africa. Stay in touch with Global Business on Twitter using the handle at CCTV News Africa. I am Penina Karibe. Thanks for watching.